Hi, I'm Val Hart in San Antonio, Texas, founder of Val Hart and Friends at valhart.com. Welcome to the Real Dr. Doolittle Show, the show for animals and the people who love them. I've been called a real-life Dr. Doolittle many times in my career as an expert animal communicator, behaviorist, pet psychic, and master healer. My mission and passion is to improve the lives of animals the world over by helping humans learn how to speak their language, how to understand their viewpoints, and heal. After all, our love of animals helps us be better humans, and the more balanced and healthy we are, the more balanced and healthy they can be too. Be sure and look for my CDs on iTunes. And to find out more about my work and to receive your free Quick Start Animal Talk course, just go to my website at valhart.com. While you're there for a limited time, you can also apply for a complimentary Happy Animal Assessment session. And if you want to learn how to be your own Dr. Doolittle, check out the world's first complete Animal Communication Made Easy system, available now on my website at valhart.com. Thank you and enjoy the show. Hi, I'm Val Hart, the Real Dr. Doolittle, and today I'm here talking with Keith Varnum. He's a vibrant filmmaker in college, and at the tender age of 19, he went totally blind before he could launch out on his own. The prognosis of Western doctors was that Keith would be blind for the rest of his life, and that catapulted him into the adventures of his life. On the journey, he studied with medicine men, shaman, Hawaiian kahuna, and the Eastern spiritual masters, and he regained his eyesight, and he discovered in the process the secrets of all healing, of transformation, and success. Keith has tested these practical secrets in his 35-year career as an author, a certified matrix energetics practitioner, a life coach, a vision quest guide, an acupuncturist, a sound healer. He's a radio host, and he's a vice president of a multi-million-dollar company. When he's not exploring consciousness in the canyons of Arizona, Keith travels around the world, assisting people to open to life's wonders and surprises in his dream workshops. Welcome, Keith. I'm so glad you made some time to talk to us today.
Well, thank you. I feel very honored to be on your show.
So I have a question for you then. So continuing the conversation about my own vision, what would you suggest we do at this point? Do you have a thought about that?
Yes.
Okay.
And the one way I'd like to introduce it is to tell you just real briefly a little more of my process.
Okay.
So you know where I'm coming from when I make a suggestion.
Okay.
For me, as I said, I lost my eyesight out of the blue as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
I had no idea why it happened. And then I got my eyesight back, and I didn't know how I got it back. But over the last 40 years, I've had more of a sense of what actually happened there.
Okay.
Before, during, and after.
Okay.
And one of the things that happened was that after I got my vision back, I still had eye problems for the next 20 years. I had 2 cataracts develop slowly. You're familiar with cataract? It's
I've had cataracts, and I've already had cataract surgery on both eyes.
Okay, then you know.
Yeah.
So I had 2 cataracts develop, and I actually ended up having cataract surgery because I wasn't able to heal them naturally.
Okay.
I also had I had styes and infections for those whole 20 years, and at the very beginning, when I got my eyesight back, my cornea, the actual outer layer of cells in my eye, would slough off, would peel off if they got too hot or too dry. So if it was too windy or dusty, I actually had to close my eyes for 5 days. I could see, but my eyes hurt too much because the cornea would fall off. It was very unstable. And that's what led me to go live with all these shamans, because I had to stabilize my eye health. I could see now. I wasn't seeing them to get my eyesight back, but I was seeing them to stabilize my cornea, and then after that, these other situations.
Okay.
So along the way, one of the things I discovered was, with the help of all these teachers and books and other people, one day I found in my guided meditations and just listening to myself that I was actually saying, in way back when I was 19, I was saying it then, I was saying to myself, God, I don't want to see anymore.
Wow.
And what I meant was, I don't want to see any more truth. Because when I grew up, my father was a lawyer and in a mayor in Pennsylvania politics. My mother was involved with mental health and the court system. So I learned all about behind the scenes in the medical field as well as political field. And of course, I didn't like what I saw. It's very corrupt in a sense when you're an innocent young kid. Mm-hmm. And then I went to the university. I went to Europe, and I was hoping it would be different. And even the film industry was not what it appeared to be behind the scenes. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And nothing was. And so I kept going into industry in the natural food business. And mm-hmm. every time I got to the core of some society institution, I discovered that it wasn't what they said it was. Mm-hmm. And I started saying to myself, well, I don't want to see any more truth. This is just too much. It's too painful. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I literally went blind. Mm-hmm. And then I started going again, 8 years later, a first cataract, and then 4 years later, the second cataract. And I asked, what's going on here? And that's when I got partly my answer was I was still running on an unconscious level this request to not see too much truth. Okay. And once I found it, I realized I changed my tune. I went to a deep meditative level and said, look, I'm strong enough to see the truth now, and I want to see the truth as life presents it, as God presents it. So I changed that request. I changed that personal law that I was putting out. And that's when all my eye problems ended. Wow. The infections, the styes, everything. And
makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm.
And everyone, I've worked with a lot of people because of my life story. People mm-hmm. who have eye challenges are attracted to reaching out to me.
Sure.
And so I've worked with a lot of people who were blind and had other eye situations. And in every case, when I work with them, they discover that it has to do with, on some level, there's something they don't want to see.
Got it.
Clearly. Either too much truth or something about the nature of something that, and the universe responds to our wishes, and so it's very helpful, either in meditation or prayer or whatever techniques you have, to listen really carefully and to ask and go in and see what subconscious or what am I saying to myself that I may not be aware of in terms, or what emotionally. I mean, it doesn't make sense often, of course. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But on what unconscious level did I make a decision to not have clarity? And it might not just be but just clarity about something. Because when we don't want clarity about sex, love, romance, money, whatever, mm-hmm. death, health, mm-hmm. then usually people develop, among other things, eye problems.
Yeah.
Because that interferes with the clarity. And of course, it's not really it's not really what we're asking for, but, so as you clarify that, you can have your eyes heal. Okay. And then part of the process, too, is to ask, I'd say the most useful question to ask is, what has been, and I use it in the past tense on purpose because hopefully you're leaving it behind. So what has been the beneficial purpose of this eye condition? And I would suggest calling it an eye condition or challenge rather than any technical medical term.
Okay.
Because those are harder to change.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
No matter whatever and also anything that doctors have told you about the operations or what they did or what they saw, mm-hmm. you can validate it all. It's all fine, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's still the way it is.
Right. True.
So if you just call it your eye condition, and the condition is the physical symptoms that you're actually aware of, blurred vision, because you know that for sure.
Yeah.
But that's much easier to clear up. A person can actually blink their eyes and clear up their blurred vision. Mm-hmm. It can be that simple once you release and change the underlying beliefs and decisions that we've made. When we make a decision to see clearly, we will see clearly. One thing that helped me was to read the life story of people who have gotten their eyesight back.
Okay.
or healed eye conditions, because there's just hundreds and hundreds out there. And almost always it follows the pattern of at one point, for whatever reason, they had an insight from a movie, a book, a friend, a doctor, or whatever, that there was something they didn't want to deal with, to feel clearly or see clearly or handle. And this was a way to obscure the situation so they didn't, because at the time, so the good question to ask is, what was the beneficial purpose of this condition?
Okay.
Because at the time, everything we do to ourselves is brilliant and it works. Because you're still alive and you're still asking questions and your spirit's still strong.
I'm still kicking.
So whatever you've done with your eyes and your body has worked, because your spirit is still alive and you're physically still with us. So generally what people do is they reach a life challenge, and then we use whatever we can within our life repertoire to handle the situation. And so say we don't feel emotionally strong enough to deal with something, or to see clearly, or to feel something clearly, or to get clear about something, then we'll either get sick or have an accident or move or get away from it. We'll take these steps or strategies, which aren't maybe the best, but at the moment they're the best we can come up with. And so that's what you're asking for. What has been the beneficial purpose? Well, it's helped me to, and then look also at ultimately what has it led you to. Well, first of all, number one, you're still alive physically. Your spirit is still alive, which, by the way, I've discovered is the most important thing to people, is to keep their spirit alive. So people will do anything to keep their spirit alive, because if the spirit goes out, But then second of all, we want to keep physically safe. So those are usually the two biggest benefits of whatever strategies we developed.
Okay.
And then second of all, there's other benefits, like we often create conditions in order to investigate something, to explore, to develop compassion or creativity or flexibility, or to develop just plain experience in healing.
Okay.
There's a lot of healers who actually consciously give themselves diseases in order to prove they can cure them, so that when they try to help other people, they can say, I've been there. And I cured it. Just the other day, last week, I do matrix energetics mainly now, and I was doing a free seminar on it, and this lady had a cast on her wrist, and all her wrist had been severed, and all the nerves severed, and the doctors told her they wanted to put a 10-inch metal plate in. I'm not quite sure why, but they told her she'd never be able to move her hand, and so on and so forth. And I was able to tell her that I worked for 10 years in Boston with Massachusetts General Hospital with doctors, and I was an acupuncturist, and really a shaman, but an acupuncturist, and a shaman and acupuncturist clothing. And I would work with these patients, and I would basically tell them everything I told you in the interview, but in their own language, and tell them they're basically energy. And we got the energy moving again in their hand. And those people regained sensitivity and movement in their hand. And some of those people actually had their whole hand severed in an industrial accident.
Wow.
Not just injured. But they just needed someone to say, look, you can do it. Because you're energy. So I was able to tell her that I'd had that personal experience. And as well as eyesight and so on, I've helped a lot of people regain their eyesight. And one of the biggest things is what they've been told by others, that you'll never see again, or you don't have a retina, or you don't have this, so you can't possibly. And none of that is actually true. And that's why life stories are very helpful, because you'll read about people who were told they're missing an actual part of their eye in an accident or whatever, or a vertebrae or whatever. They'll never walk again because they're missing this, or this was crushed or whatever. And yet those people are able to do it.
Wow.
So if a layperson can do it without a spiritual background, or everything we know energetically and spiritually, then we can certainly do it. And so that's how I work with people. I find it helpful to find those true life stories,
Okay.
They've really helped me throughout my life, because I know if one person's done it on the planet, and if 100 or 200 have done it, and they did it accidentally without really having much of a belief that they could do it, then I can certainly do it with all the experience and belief I have.
Yeah, I would certainly hope so. Yeah. What are some of your favorite life stories? What can you think of any?
I got so many. In regard to what?
Well, you were saying to find out about other people who have gone through this. Who else can you think of?
You mean with blindness per se,
yeah.
or?
Yeah. Who else has lost their vision and then brought themselves back?
See.
Or not just blindness, but on that concept, can you think of any that comes to the top of your head?
I don't remember their names, but they've been like one thing. YouTube videos are very helpful.
Oh.
A lot of these life stories are now on. They used to have to read a book or an article. Now you can, or you can just Google it, and you'll get articles and YouTube videos. People who've regained blindness, people who've healed themselves. That's probably the most powerful. I'll tell you the way I found this was, as a filmmaker, I made money by shooting film at accidents and emergencies, hurricanes and floods, and then selling the film footage to a television station for money. And so I was around a lot of injury because of hurricanes and floods and stuff and car accidents. And I saw people doing amazing things. I saw people lift trucks off people. Wow. I saw people open elevator doors. And then I watched everyone deny it. All the other eyewitnesses, the other reporters, the EMTs, the emergency workers. And because it happened, it was too miraculous. It was too outside their realm of possibility. So that's what made me realize that that people heal themselves all the time and create supernatural solutions, but because we're trained to discount it rather than be empowered by it. For example, I wanted to make a documentary when I was still a filmmaker about people who lift trucks off other people, like children and slight men and slight women who lift 2.5-ton trucks off people.
Yeah, yep.
And I felt I didn't even know if I could get enough interviews to fill an hour. This was for radio interview, documentary. And I didn't have to leave the state of Michigan, because every city I went to that had a newspaper had 4 or 5 accounts within that city. So I barely had to go 100 miles from the college town I was in.
Wow.
And I got over 200 people to interview.
Goodness gracious.
It's that common.
Wow.
But I also found within it that the people felt very isolated. They were very reluctant to even talk about it, because even their husband or wife and children and friends, let alone their doctor, had felt they were crazy after a few years.
Wow. Even
though very often their other family members had actually witnessed it. Everybody went into amnesia about it, into denial.
Wow.
Yeah. The typical thing they'll do is say, like when I was shooting when I was out in the field, shooting footage for TV, I'd say, "Did you see that woman lift the truck off that man?" And they'd say, "Well, I'm not sure she really lifted. I think it just was up against the cliff, and it shifted, and the cliff was holding it up." They'd always explain it in some other way.
That is so bizarre.
Oh, everyone would do that.
It's bizarre.
And I found many cases where the newspaper reports had pictures, and a policeman, an emergency worker, an ambulance driver, and a husband or wife or neighbor witnessed the same thing. Witnessed, say, this woman lifting a truck off a kid in his bicycle. And within a few weeks, everyone denied that it happened.
Wow. It's like the collective consciousness doesn't allow us to really know the truth about who we really are.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Wow.
And so that really trained me. What message I got from that was, okay, where I need to go is to undo my connection to the collective unconscious.
Yeah.
Don't try to change anyone's mind. Just we withdraw. You know Carolyn Mace?
Yes.
I find her very helpful because she had one phrase where she said, when you are merged with the collective mainstream consciousness, you can only evolve or do things according in alignment with the mainstream consciousness.
Oh, wow.
But when you withdraw your consciousness from the collective tribal consciousness, you can do anything you want and evolve in any manner that you choose.
Wow.
And that my soul just perked up, and I said, well, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
And that's what I really do with people. And the other thing I wanted to mention was, as you ask yourself, what is the beneficial purpose of everything, of this condition and what it's brought you, either short-term and long-term, because then you're actually looking, it shifts you into what they call the ego point of view, speaking of animal totems. The eagle and the hawk have the highest point of view because they see the big picture, the whole picture, but they can also work with detail. They can see the smallest little piece of grass, but they can also see the whole landscape. And that's the point of view of the soul. And so as you ask that question, what was the beneficial purpose, you begin to look at your condition from the point of view of your soul, who is actually behind it. Your soul did it for a purpose. You did it. The real you did it for a purpose, to develop, to give you some sort of certain kinds of experiences in life. And
right.
most likely, once a person gets to the point of investigating this deeply, they've usually already gotten the lessons and the experiences and the value that they need to get from the experience. And so it's time you can, usually people can let go of the condition.
Okay.
If they find out what the lesson was, what the value was, and then basically I remember once Spirit saying to me, I started exploring what's the beneficial purpose of being poor and sick. Because at that point in my life, I had always, besides my eyes, if it wasn't my eyes, I was sick in some other way,
Yeah.
And then I was always poor. Not super poor, but, struggling.
Yeah.
So I kept asking, what's the spiritual beneficial purpose? Why would my soul keep giving me this experience, this human experience of poverty, scarcity, and sickness? And finally, my spirit, I saw that it was to develop compassion, to develop the personal experience so that people would know that I'd been there.
Okay.
So when I go to help other people can tell if you've been there or not.
Yes, they can.
Felt that, they can tell. And so Spirit asked me at one point, Spirit said, if you weren't poor and you weren't sick anymore, would you still have the compassion and depth of empathy and concern for people that you have now? And I said, yes. And I knew in my heart I wouldn't lose it. I wouldn't lose that sense of empathy. And that was the end right there of my poverty and being sick all the time. And that was after like 30, 40 years of it.
Wow.
Because I got for myself that I didn't need to have I didn't need to have those teachers in my life anymore.
Right.
For me to be humble and empathetic and compassionate. And also I already had that depth of character, people knew that I'd been there. So I didn't need to keep putting myself through that. Yeah. And so that's the value of asking those kind of questions. What's the beneficial purpose? How did it serve me in some way? How is it still serving me? Ultimately, what has it given me? You ask the question in 1,000 different ways until you get, answers that make sense. And then you ask yourself, well, do I need the condition any longer? Is it necessary for me to have this condition for me to keep getting these benefits? And actually, the answer is always no.
Yeah.
And
if you're conscious enough to ask that question,
exactly.
You're about conscious enough.
Exactly.
Graduate time.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yay.
exactly. But it does seem that it needs to be made really conscious and for a conscious decision to be made and realization to happen.
Right.
And then the nightmare is over, as I put it. And I've been through that with many, many physical conditions, not just with the eyes. I even had one 3 years ago, and it lasted as long as it lasted till I got answers to those questions, and then as soon as I got answers to those questions, the spiritual beneficial purpose and the benefit and the gift, and I received the gift, and I didn't need the condition anymore.
Yeah.
And then all kinds of, as you ask these questions, all kinds of people and videos and reports will come up. Assistance will come, information will come from all different realms.
Wow. Excellent.
Yeah.
Got it. Good work. Good work. This is so needed.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so needed.
There's no shortage. That's one thing I don't undervalue, what I know anymore, because people they're so in need of it right now. Because nothing much is working for most people now.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, it's like we either shift and evolve consciously and spiritually, or we, I don't know.
Really miserable.
Yeah, we don't make it, and it's
right.
a hard road.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. Thank you.
You're very welcome, and thank you for asking me. It's really fun to talk on this level.
Yeah.
You drew out a lot more clarity for me about simplicity and clarity about shamanism, about everything you've asked, because of you asking it and from the level that you could hear it.
Thank you.
So that's a lot of fun for me. That's a gift.
It is fun, isn't it? Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I'm very tempted to actually use the bit that we've just been talking about with the vision and all of that, and actually offer that as a podcast. What do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely, sure.
I'm just thinking we'll make it like part 2.
Yeah.
I'll just I know it's not as much on animals. We talked about animals a bit, but I think it's really needed and helpful and useful. And part of my work isn't just about animals, but it's also about the people who love them. And if we're healthy and, are balanced in body, mind, and spirit, then our animals can be also, and they don't need to carry or reflect these stressors or, create the sickness and accidents and all those things that happen.
Absolutely.
They don't need to serve us that way. If we can get the deeper message, then not only do we ourselves don't have to experience those things as much, but our animals don't have to do that for us either, which is really important. So,
I had a girlfriend once in Hawaii. For 5 years we were together, and then she just didn't want to go to her next level.
Yeah.
She was just terrified of it. So I just couldn't even talk to her anymore because she didn't trust God. She didn't trust me. So we just
that's hard.
Because she just didn't want to go any further.
Got it.
So anyway, what happened to her, she had 5 poodles, wonderful little poodles. And one by one, not all at once, one by one eye at a time, they all got cataracts.
Oh, good Lord.
So she had to fly them from her island of Hawaii to Oahu, the main island, one by one, 10 operations, because there's 5 dogs, 2 eyes each, 5 operations at $5,000 each.
Oh, my God.
And they all got cataracts. And 10, eventually, this took years. And then they all died, one by one. I've never seen a more, good, perfect, unfortunately, good example of somebody refusing to see their next step or to take it, and their animals, out of their love, reflecting it to the nth degree. Yeah. And then when the 5th dog died, she finally at least moved from that, sold that house and moved. And as far as I can tell from friends, she did finally, change, make a move spiritually. Yeah. It took all of that to. Right. Yeah. Geez. Yeah.
That's what I call the human-animal body-mind connection. And what happens is that our animals reflect our wounds. Yeah. And they carry our illnesses, our stressors, our dis-ease, within themselves. Yeah. Partly because they're connected to us consciously. We're talking about withdrawing from the collective unconscious. But, when you're in a small group like me and my dog, or something like that, it's like you have a little mini collective consciousness, and they're connected And so what they're feeling bleeds into us, and the same way back and forth. And so if we're sick, we can count on it. There's going to be something show up in our animal, and vice versa. Just had a real interesting experience with my dog Einstein. He's only a year and a half. He's a schnauzer, a miniature schnauzer, actually a large, not so mini schnauzer. But he fell off the bed and went lame and actually couldn't hold his hind end up. So emergency trip to the vet, figured out that he had a hairline fracture in his hip. And, and so I'm treating him for that. And, of course, I get the wake-up call. It's like, oh, I need to pay attention to my own bone health. Mm-hmm. So there's a dense, energy frequency there that we both need to pay attention to.
Right.
So the things I'm doing for him, I'm also paying attention for myself. And that's really common. I think when we're aware and know the pattern and know to look and know to be open and ask for that direction, then we get it.
Absolutely.
And so it really, really helps.
I've noticed it with everyone's pets everyone's animals throughout their whole life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I wish you the best with that.
Thank you so much. Well, so again, thank you for this. So let's go ahead, and I would like to go ahead and offer this to my listeners. I think you'll find a lot of value in it also. So let's go ahead and close it there. Okay. And thank you. So bye. And again, I hope to talk to you again later.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. Keith? All right. Okay, so Stuart, okay, this is going to be the part 2 introduction for the bit where we finished the last or the first section of this interview. So we're going to have 2 interviews. And this will be the intro to that. So, hi, I'm Val Hart, the real Dr. Doolittle, and today I am talking to Keith Varnum. I talked to him, starting over. Hi, I'm Val Hart, the real Dr. Doolittle, and today I'm talking with Keith Varnum. We're continuing our conversation. As you'll remember in the last podcast, I talked to Keith about shamanism. We talked all about power animals, shamanic journeying, how to be a shaman, the role of crisis and trauma in the development of a shaman, and all of those wonderful things. It was a wonderful, wonderful interview. And as you may remember, Keith went blind when he was 19 years old, and that's what sparked him to launch out on his own, and it catapulted him into the adventure of his life. He actually regained his vision and his eyesight, and he learned all manner of secrets of healing, transformation, and success. So I would like to continue the conversation, because after our last conversation, I asked him more about eye health and vision and the purpose of accidents and injury and things like that, and I think you'll gain a lot of value from listening. So please do and enjoy. So let's see, you have something for our listeners today, is that right?
Yes, I have a free CD that you can get by calling my 800 number or go to my website.
Okay.
And it's called How to Create Prosperity Now, and that's prosperity in the full sense of the word. Abundance within the world, in health, in friendship, in love, in all avenues of your life.
Okay. And
the website is thedream.com. Thedream.com.
So www.thedream.com.
Yes.
Got it.
And the phone number is 800-736-7367.
Okay, so the website is thedream.com. Phone number 800-736-7367.
Yes.
Got it. And you've got the free prosperity CD, How to Create Prosperity Now. I know I'm definitely going to get my copy. I want to know.
It's a guided meditation, very much like a shamanic journey.
Oh, I like that.
It is a shamanic journey.
It's a guided shamanic journey. Well, oh my gosh, we've got to have that. Definitely. And I also know that I visited your website, of course, and I love your website. There are so many wonderful stories and articles and helpful stuff on it. So, listeners, go for it. Go to thedream.com. And then how else can they contact you, Keith? You're willing to give them your email?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Keith, Keith,
Okay.
Keith, Keith, at thedream.com.
Great. All right, everybody. Wonderful. Thank you, Keith. I have so enjoyed talking to you today.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
So wonderful. Yeah. Thank you for the work that you do, for your love, for life, for your journey, for finding the treasures in your wound, the beauty and the gift within your experience and bringing it to us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the show. For more information or to listen to other podcasts, go to valhart.com/blog. And if you're someone who values a non-invasive, holistic solution to resolving problems with your dogs, cats, and horses, and you want better behaved, healthier, and happier animals, just go to my website at valhart.com to apply for a complimentary Happy Animal Assessment session. And be sure and remember to look for my CDs on iTunes. Learning how to talk with animals is fun and will change your life. So while you're there at my site, get my free Quick Start Animal Talk course and check out the world's first complete Animal Communication Made Easy system. May the love of animals bless you, teach you, inspire you, heal you, and reconnect you to the circle of life.